Okay guys, this is an RP engine and I'm going to convert it to traxxas EZ start. But this engine, normally it's a bump start. So bump starts don't have a pin on the crankshaft where the back plate can be attached. So what I did, I've modified this engine. I actually had a crankshaft of a Sportworks S26 and it fitted perfect. It's a tune crankshaft and it has the pin that I need. And in this engine I've cut one cooling fin around. I actually cut it with 1mm grinding disc. It's a very thin disc, so I cut it nice and straight. I could polish it. It's nice and smooth. It's only nice and smooth. The reason I had to cut it was because this cooling fin actually comes down the block itself. Normally engines, the cooling doesn't come down that much. As you can see, the block itself, the crankcase, is actually in the cooling head. And there was another fin coming just down there, about where this cooling fin is. There was another one coming down here. Well, down. Strange. Anyway. Well, there's no need for it, so I cut it off. I had to cut it off because of the EZ. Otherwise, the EZ cannot fit it. So I chop it off. I have no need for it. There's a bit of oil coming out because I put some oil there. Okay, this is a brand new anyway, so I will use it. And I'm gonna fit the EZ. First thing I'm gonna do. Okay, this back plate, as I told you guys, this engine was a bump start, change crankshaft. So the back plate is actually from a Force engine 28. I had to put 2 rings here to give a bit more space. Normally, that little cut here, that's what it goes into the spring. But this crank don't have a spring. They got a pin, just like lossy engines, because the Sportworks S26, it is exactly the same as S26 from Lossy. So what I did, as is a solid, that pin there is actually part of the crankshaft. I cannot use this thing bit here. It cannot be used. To use this bit, it needs to have a spring. So what I did, I made a cut. See, with 1mm grinder, cut really nice, like butter. I just cut it slowly, cut it, check it out, cut it, check it out, until I fit it properly. And it fits properly. The reason I put the spaces is so it stays just there. All you want is a tiny bit of play between the crank rod that plate, no? You don't want it to be forced into the cone rod itself, so you need a tiny bit of play. Without the spaces, that plate will not reach there. So I have to put that spaces, just enough. So I put it there, and if I turn to the end, there, just slide in. So I'm going to put 1, 2 screws, couple screws. Let's put 1. And another. You guys probably going to be thinking, how in the world can you change the crankshaft from one kind of engine to another? Well, it's all common sense. Actually, normally RB engines, the big bearing inside the crank, usually they're different from all the other engines. But Lossy is perfect. So I can give it a bit of space, and as you can see, tiny little play. Can you hear? That's just enough. So it catches the crank, but it's not actually forcing, it's not binding into it, because you don't want to be grinding. You need it to be free. I'll put the other 2 screws. The tiny little things. And another one. So you just, my tip to you is get some back plates from different engines, you know, and have a go. If it doesn't fit, get another one, a different one, until you succeed. Because the EZ starter motors are made to fit their own engines, not other people's engines. So if you want to convert it, you have to use your imagination, using beds from different engines. You can do it. Right now, I'll fit the starter motor. Got the starter motor here, the engine there for now. I got some spaces, as you can see. It's from suspension of buggies and things like that. Front suspension. I think that actually from a Lossy, from the steering knuckles. They've got lots of that stuff there. So just slide that into the screw. It might just be too long. Right. I got other stuff here. I got some nuts. I'll put some nuts. Those things was just too long. So I mean, you still could fit it if that shaft here was longer. I could fit those spaces, but they're not long. it's not that longer. Anyway, so put those little nuts there to give a space, because you don't want the one-way bearing to be forced to the back one, you know, for the back to the back plate. Anyway, just tight nuts there. I leave a bit of play. So I can turn over now. Tight. Leave it a bit loose. And the other one. That's the one with the earth wire. It is there. Now, touch them. There. We try to tie it. Take one, take the other. Yeah. I just don't see the fast people say it's difficult. They can't do it. I don't understand. Space there. That's what the nuts do. You give it a space in between. So the one-way bearing, it's not pressing against the back plate, so it moves free. Of course, on the traxxas engines you don't need the spaces at all. Okay, so it's done. But there's one more thing I need to show you guys. The reason I chop one cooling fin is because, as you can see, there is no space. See that fin, that cooling fin, it's already touching the EZ. So the other, with the other one, the one I took it off, it was impossible to fit the one is the EZ. Anyway, there was no need for another one, and it fits perfect like that, and it's done. So we'll try now if it works, which it should work. I know it works. Anyway, just give me a moment. Okay, there's that. There's it here. Connect this thing like this. Okay, there's the piston. Can you see the piston? I'm just gonna click once. There it goes. There it is. Simple. Okay, so you know now.